Ball pythons are extremely fun snakes to have, but let me tell you 5 fun facts about them that you may or may not know. What's up, YouTube? So, yep, another 5 fun facts video. Let's go ahead and get into it. So first, let me give you a little bit of background on the ball python. Ball pythons are from Africa. They like to live in burrows and tight spaces, and at night they come out and they venture around because they are nocturnal snakes. Now, the fun facts about ball pythons are going to be based around where they're from and kind of how they live in the wild versus captivity. Ball pythons are actually called Python regis or royal pythons. The reason they're called royal pythons is because people believe that in the past, tribe chiefs used to wear these snakes as living jewelry. And that's pretty crazy considering the fact that I wear my snakes around my neck too, and that's just practically wearing the snakes the way they were practically worn in the past as living jewelry. And I think they're super cool because you put them around your neck, and most of the time they stay there without you even having to relocate them or readjust them or anything like that. Some snakes that I have move a little too much, and they do have to be readjusted or even have to be put back in their tubs because of the fact that they move too much. Well, I thought it was going to go a lot smoother than this, but this snake is not cooperating. She's trying to get in the tubs behind me. So that's how it's going on right now. And so I might have to put her back. She's not cooperating. And all the other snakes that I plan are in shed. And let's just keep giving her some chances here. Let her relax. Alright. This is just going to have to be the way I hold her. She's really trying to leave me. She said, not today, bro. So, this is a leopard pied het clown female. And when I got her, she was tiny. And now she's a lot bigger. So now I can't control her the same way I used to be able to. So, ever since we started exporting ball pythons to other countries from Africa, there have been 7,500 plus different morphs created or found via breeding and captivity, which is pretty ironic because of we as humans, we try to control everything, and that's kind of what we've done, creating these magnificent creatures with these magnificent morphs and trying to figure out what more we can do with these creatures. And that's kind of where all the breeding comes in captivity. It's just trying to figure out what we can do with these ball pythons. So, fun fact number 3 is actually going into more breeding. When we breed in captivity, we try to mimic ball python breeding season. And ball python breeding season in the wild is from September to November. And obviously, it's easy for them to figure it out in the wild because they're in the wild, they can do whatever they want. In captivity, they're in tubs, they're in enclosures, and more than likely they can't get out and be put in with the other gender. And therefore, we have to do everything. We have to manually start breeding these snakes. We have to move the male with the female, or move the female with the male, or whatever. And because of that, we can, in captivity, breed year-round. And that's actually pretty funny that it works that way because, just like I said, it was ironic that we as humans try to control everything. If something already has a breeding season for 3 months, how do we figure out how to keep them breeding the entire year? And I'll kind of tell you a reason why, besides the fact that we can mimic breeding season. Because we can mimic breeding season, we can practically breed them year-round. But the same as every other type of species of animal or any other type of animal, breeding season is mainly when the woman is ready. And the same thing goes for ball pythons. Ball pythons, while they do have a breeding season, some female ball pythons ovulate and go through the motions at different times. I've had, just in 2023, I had females lay eggs from March all the way to July. That's a pretty big difference. Considering if they were breeding in September to November, how would they have a 5-month gap almost between the first laying this year for me all the way to the last laying this year for me? So that's pretty interesting for me anyways, that ball pythons can breed so differently in captivity versus the wild. And adding on top of that, breeding is not the only thing different from captivity to the wild. In the wild, ball pythons have an average lifespan of about 10 to 15 years. In captivity, the average ball python lifespan is about 30 years, with the oldest ball python being 60-something years in some zoo in St. Louis. or I guess the St. Louis Zoo. It's not some zoo, it is the St. Louis Zoo. And it's kind of funny that we can manipulate animals so well that not only can we breed them year round, but we can also extend their lifespan by 6 times just because they're in captivity. And honestly, the oldest ball python I have in my collection is only 13 years old compared to, you know, a 30-year-old average lifespan. That's pretty young still. And she's still a breeder. So that's why she's still a breeder, because she's still technically pretty young. Now, on top of that, talking about breeding, ball pythons on average are anywhere from $25 to $50 if you're getting a normal ball python. If you're going for breeder quality ball python, the most expensive ball python I've seen get sold, it's $50,000. And it's funny because if you're thinking about $25 or $50 for a ball python, that means that the most expensive ball python is anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 times more expensive than a regular ball python. And that's just completely absurd, but it is what it is. That is how the industry works out, and that is how we have manipulated the ball python by obviously breeding in captivity. And this girl here, she's not the most expensive snake I have, but she is super, super docile and super cool. And you know what's funny about ball pythons, besides the fact that all of the other things that I've said, ball pythons actually are called ball pythons because when they get frightened, they ball up. And she's been trying to ball up this entire time around my wrist, but it's just not working because, again, as a human, I'm manipulating this animal for whatever I want, which kind of sounds terrible, but it is what it is. We have them as pets. We obviously are going to try to make them do what we want to do. It works the same with all other types of pets. And again, with all other types of pets, we try to train them to be the way we want them to be. So the same goes for ball pythons. Even though ball pythons are not necessarily aggressive, they sometimes will bite. Anything with teeth do bite. But I have actually only ever been bitten by a ball python once, and it was during feeding day. I just didn't have a rat for her. She thought my hand was a rat. That wasn't really a fun fact, but it is what it is. So just to recap the fun facts that I have already said. 1, ball pythons or python regis or royal ball pythons or whatever you want to call them, they are called royal pythons because people used to wear them as jewelry back in the olden days. Then ball pythons have an average lifespan about 30 years in captivity, and the oldest one being over 60 years at the St. Louis Zoo. Then fun fact number 3 was the fact that there are over 7,500 ball python morphs because of all the breeding that we have done in captivity. And also not just the breeding in captivity, but a lot of the exporting that we do. Sometimes we find different morphs out in the wild that we bring into our collections, and we try to figure out if it's recessive, dominant, or incomplete dominant, and that's another way we get a lot of these morphs. And fun fact number 4 was that the most expensive ball python that I have seen anyways was almost 2,000 times more expensive than a normal ball python that you can find at a pet store. And that's pretty wild to me. And the last, number 5 fun fact is that because we manipulate ball pythons so well, we can breed them year-round in captivity versus in the wild. Their breeding season is anywhere from September to November, which it's pretty good to have a 2-month breeding season or a 3-month breeding season, but it's even better if your breeding season's year-round because obviously these animals will probably never go extinct because of the fact that we are breeding them in captivity. And honestly, that's pretty good because most of the animals that do go extinct aren't able to be bred in captivity because of the fact that their breeding seasons are so weird, or the fact that they have some extraordinary breeding ritual that can't be captured in captivity or can't be replicated in captivity. But ball pythons are pretty easy, so therefore captivity works very well for them. And you know, the funny thing is about all the morphs that we have in ball pythons is I have probably over 30 different morphs in my collection. And while I have those morphs, I honestly don't know the number of morphs I have in my collection, but it's still a very small fraction of the number of morphs that are available for purchase for ball pythons. And I try to keep it simple, so I try to stay around a number that I can manage and something that I'm able to identify when I breed them. So therefore, the 30 morphs that I have are probably going to stay. I don't know really what the number is, but I'm assuming it's around 30, maybe 40 different morphs that I have in my collection. But the majority of them are pied and banana. So it's a lot of combination pied stuff, a lot of combination banana stuff, a lot of combination banana pied stuff. So therefore, she is constricting my wrist. I am literally losing feeling in my hands right now because of how tight her grip around my wrist is. But that's pretty much because she is frightened by the fact that I move around a lot, and she is really tight on my wrist so she doesn't fall. And that's okay. I can still move my fingers, but I can definitely feel that it's getting constricting. So with that said, this video is over. If you made it this far, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything that I put out in the future. As always, let me get my finger out. Peace. There you go. She's trying to take me out, ain't she? She's like, put me back or I'll take you out. That's what's happening. Deuces.
Music licensing reimagined.